Are intensifying between the Nationals and Juan Soto regarding a second offer from the team to the star for a 13 years, $425 million extension, which will increase the initial $350 million offer by $75 million. Now, Brittany Giroli had this, told the report the Nationals offer Juan Soto 13 years, $425 million is inaccurate. Also important to note, the Lerner family is exploring a sale of the team, making the timing of any negotiations, and there's no evidence there's anything active. Curious, to say the least. Back in Studio 3, Greg with Bo and Dan. Brittany Giroli makes a lot of sense with that report. I initially went back to Giancarlo Stanton, almost hitting 60 home runs for the Marlins, and he was Mr. MVP. His $300+ million contract was viewed as a financial liability while they were shopping the organization to have it sold to Bruce Sherman and his group. So they had to trade Giancarlo Stanton. Does it make sense that the Nationals would go over $400 million for Juan Soto when they're trying to sell the team, when the Lerner family's trying to do that?
For all the reasons that you just said, it doesn't make sense. But also, when you look at the Washington Nationals, they're at a crossroad, the organization is. They won the World Series in 2019. Last offseason, if you're Juan Soto, you watch Max Scherzer walk out the door. You watch Trey Turner walk out the door. You watch Anthony Rendon leave for free agency. And you're sitting there saying to yourself, yes, I know the money may sound very appealing to most people, but Juan Soto is one of the best young players in all of baseball. And he wants to win. He wants to win again. And he has to ask himself, if I sign this contract, will they be able to put a winning team around me? And I think that that's the bigger question, not whether or not the report is true. Even if it is true, will Juan Soto accept the deal? It's the bigger question.
Now, the Washington Post came out and said that they are engaging each other in talks. So this is an ongoing thing. The numbers were not reported by them. But it does make sense in terms of timing because Juan Soto's hitting under 220. So if you're the Mike Rizzo and the Washington Nationals, maybe Juan Soto isn't feeling like Superman as much as he was before, and he might be more inclined to take a contract extension.
Greg, if you would have told me when the spring training began and when the season started in April that we would be going in towards the end of June, we're almost in July, and Juan Soto would be hitting under 220, I would have never in a million years believed it. I still feel that going into the season, he was the best left-handed hitter in the game of baseball. And for a myriad of reasons, a bad team down in the standings, on an island in the lineup that doesn't have a lot around him, I get all that. I don't know what you do if you're the Washington Nationals. And I would assume if you're one of the 29 other teams, let's just say you're one of the 5 other teams that could afford that contract. Are you a little apprehensive and worried? Like, is this 220? Is this just a bad year?
We had this conversation with Steve Phillips.
Is this like...
He said he is worried about Juan Soto. We laughed at him.
I'm not worried.
I'm not worried about Juan Soto. Are you worried about Juan Soto?
220 is 220 when it gets into July. Yeah, it's a concern. It makes me feel like, okay, he's not bulletproof anymore. Because there was a while I thought that swing and his approach, what he's all about, was bulletproof. Pop to all fields, hits the ball wherever it pitched, didn't swing at a lot of bad pitches. And all those things have gone out the window.
You can take Juan Soto right now. Not that the Washington Nationals is going to do this. I'm not saying that. But you can take Juan Soto right now, and you can pick any of the contenders. Take the Boston Red Sox, and let's say they have the pieces to pull it off, and they trade for Juan Soto. He'll go from 220 to probably 280 by the time the season ends, and he'll be in the batter's box like this.
Yes, I'm with you.
Because it will be a whole different level of energy because of what he's showing up to at the ballpark each and every day. I sat and watched this kid for 2 years. And it's one of the best swings in all of baseball. And I'm not giving him any excuses. I'm not making excuses for the numbers. I'm saying the reality of what he's dealing with right now, you're not seeing the true essence of his ability.
No.
Because you can't really quantify the impact of it.
But we know his ability.
Yes.
And we know how good he is.
This is the same guy that in the playoff game took Hader, turned him around, that sent the Washington Nationals on that postseason run
It's the same
to win the
guys,
World Series.
Number 4 on our top 100 players right now list in the offseason. Now look at the guys that make it the top 5. Ohtani was number 1, Trout 2, then Tatis, Soto, and Harper. There are only 2 guys of that top 5 that don't have their mega contract. Soto's 1. Shohei Ohtani is a free agent before Soto. So why is it? I get it. Ohtani's 27 and Soto's 4 years younger. But why is it we're talking nothing but Soto, and we're not talking about the only human that's got a sub-3 ERA and more than 10 home runs at the plate? Why are we talking about Shohei Ohtani?
I just can't see a baseball world out west in Anaheim without having this guy part of the Angels. I know where you're going. You have a guy, $400 million player in Mike Trout. Can you afford 2 of those kinds of players?
And Anthony Rendon.
Listen, I would be shocked if he wore a uniform anything other than the Angels.
I am the polar opposite of you. I would be shocked if he was wearing an Angels uniform. At some point, a team that never plays in the postseason, you can't operate like you're always playing in the postseason. At some point, you have to draw the line and say and go, well, we have one $400 million player. How many of those are there in the sport? We have one of them, right? We get the only one. We can't have 2 of them, and that's what we're talking about. He's a $400 million talent.
And when you look at Ohtani, he's headed toward 30 years old, so you're giving him this type of money later in his career, and you don't really know. He's had back trouble. He's been on the IL several times. So there are some other underlying things that you have to consider when you talk about a 10, 11, 12-year deal for Ohtani.
Who is more likely to sign a long-term contract with their current team, Ohtani or Soto?
Neither.
All right, so if neither will sign a long-term contract, are you just going to let them leave in free agency?
If you're the organization, you cannot. You've invested too much in them.
So what do you do now? You got to trade them, right?
You got to cash in. Now, when you cash in depends on the organizational thought. But for me, if I'm going to trade Juan Soto, I'm not trading him at the trade deadline. I'm trading him in the offseason.
What about Ohtani? If you trade Shohei Ohtani this year, he becomes the number 1 pitcher that you could acquire at the trade deadline. And oh, by the way, he would be the number 1 bat. Because if we're saying Wilson Contreras is the top position player, pound for pound, offensively speaking, Shohei Ohtani would be the number 1 bat and the number 1 arm.
I can't disagree with you. I can't.
Those are facts.
But I don't see him in a uniform outside of the Angels. I don't know why, but I just don't.
We need to close your eyes and try.
Okay.
Because I think that's going to eventually happen. What do you think? Tweet it.